everybody doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Elijah, are you ready to do a part yet? Are you? Fantastic.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great today.
That's good.
I'm going to, you want to read scripture? Are you good to do that? Or would you rather do a call to worship? Okay, Ryan, can you read the scripture for me? Okay, there we go. All right, guys, so lots of announcements this week. We got lots happening. No chaplain chat tomorrow. As I said earlier, I'm gonna be on my way to Atlanta. Conscious conversation switched from this week to next week. Topic, immigration. The March 29th, we're gonna do it in the Islamic Center, Quad Cities visit. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'm getting, what do they call them? The vehicle we take? The turtle. Turtle. So we got plenty of room. If you wanna go up for, what we do is we leave here about noon. We get there and we do the afternoon prayers with them. And then Aman Bashar is usually absolutely fantastic with giving an informal kind of conversation afterwards where you guys can ask questions and everything. The Pie the Pastor, this is going to be April 8th, not April 2nd. Bring your money. We're going to be in the quad.
Yeah, we're gonna be in the quad. It's $2 to pie for one pie, $3 for two pies, $5 for three pies. And you have the possibility of also pieing one of the interns. So, yeah.
So it's a variety. And I'm hoping to kind of, I don't know if it'll happen, but I am going to ask President Wyatt if he'll join us.
Yes.
So I can't say that's going to happen, but I am going to ask him. So he likes me. So maybe
I
can talk
forgot
him
to add the time. It's 12 to 4.
Okay, 12 to 4. So that's a lot of time for pies. So we'll do it, and the money's going to the recharge center. We're gonna raise money for the recharge center. Okay, so then April 8th, we'll have my friend Kelly Ingersoll is gonna be here. He's the pastor at First Christian Church in Macomb. He's gonna come in. We're gonna do a dialectic thing like Reginald and I did last semester. And then I just spoke to Lorna. We're gonna have one later in April, and there's a possibility of one more coming. April 12th, if you're interested, we're gonna do a Shabbat worship at the synagogue in Galesburg. Worship starts at 7:30 at night. It is a Friday night. We're gonna get there about 7, and the rabbi has graciously given us a half an hour before the service to talk about the service, to have answer any questions you have about Judaism, and then we'll do the service. And then afterwards, it'll be probably about 9 o'clock or 8:30 when we get going, heading home. I usually get ice cream about that time, so ice cream will be on me on the way home. So if you're interested, I'm not above bribing people to go to worship. So, all right. So we got a good turnout today, guys. I'm excited for this. Next week is Holy Week. I hope you will indulge me. For 20 years, I preached in a rural church, so I had every service of Holy Week. Now I'm here, and you guys are gone by the time Holy Week actually hits into gear with Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. So what we're going to do next week is we will have a service of the Palms, but we'll also kind of do what they call the Passion narrative. So we'll kind of go through the Holy Week there and celebrate that in a little different way, because I want you guys to talk to me about Holy Week from your perspective, not just from my perspective. So that's going to be more conversational stuff. All right. Now, Elijah, you want to lead us in call to worship?
I can stand, sit down.
You go ahead right there. You're fine. I'm pretty relaxed about that.
The Lord is making a new covenant with the people of God.
In this place, Christ writes the law of love on our hearts.
We are children of the living God.
Together, let us worship the Lord of love.
Okay, questions today. We're going to talk about the economy of God tonight a little bit. And I want to give you a little bit of a heads up on this. The economy of God is what God values versus man's economy, versus what man or humanity values. So I want in our conversation, we're going to break up a little bit for those of you who are new. We'll break up a little bit and we'll have short conversations with each other. You know, you guys 3 and 3 and here and you guys. And these are the questions I want you to talk about. What are the characteristics of God that you understand? What characteristics does God show into the world from your perspective? Is God love? Is God a judge? Is God angry? Is God, what characteristics? And how do those characteristics, what are the ways that God calls us to walk a different path in the world through those characteristics? All right? So let's break up and have a conversation about these questions. You guys can all be together. JC, you can get out of there.
Lamont's got a little run in the question right now. One of you two. Go ahead, start it. We should go through.
You know, if you start first with the characteristics of God, you have easy ones to start with, and other people have to come up with something.
Okay. The characteristics I understand is like he's kind of like the almighty, he's like forgiving, very fair. And I was like,
As long as you try to be a good person, God will show you His grace. No matter what.
When it comes to knowing
No matter
the
what.
characteristics
As
of God that I
long as you are trying.
or even if you don't understand,
As long as you are
having to give us more than the so we know what's to be the person. Obviously,
So we have now. You gotta get me in here, so I wanna ask you a question. We have to repent in order to obtain God.
Because God knows you want to no matter what. God knows
also
And so, what characteristics do we got in God? That we are able to carry ourselves in a way that, these are the two, how we envision God.
that is probably the two main things.
Oftentimes it's how we act.
How I would probably
If God is judgmental, if God is angry, and things, right?
Basically going off like, we know about the idea of like that one person always in the corner, but like, just the question always that kind of
water.
God is
And I know you like
talking
talking
with
before,
us, but he is always in the
you
corner
guys had a
watching
great
us.
conversation, so thank you.
As many of our family members, friends, community, God is always there, just in our corner watching us and always rooting for us as much as possible. Hope for our successes and also comforting us in our hardest times.
You figure that as man is,
it'll be there. You have
as mankind kind of look to think of ourselves only sometimes
And that's the through that wisdom,
be
through that
inclusive of everyone else.
I'm gonna have Brandon come join you guys.
Not only of ourselves, but how we fit into the world, how we can make,
Thanks, guys.
work together to make it.
Oh, you're good, perfect timing, to get into the questions.
I see that God created us to be in
each of our own
relationship with God. And with you, I mean, that's why God made us caretakers.
Oh, don't worry.
Good. What do you think? How was your break?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
good.
Just got to spend time with my brother.
Now, is he still in Tennessee? Or is he in this area? Oh, he's in Pella, Iowa. Oh, that's right. That's right. 'Cause he works at that college, right? Yeah. That's what we have to work on changing, right? That's why I picked the topic we picked. So. Yeah, but you know you can come talk to me anytime you want, right? Oh, yeah, anytime, but yeah, you should be the email, whatever, but I always try to respond as fast as I can if I'm not in a meeting or something, so, and at least I'll send back and say, hey, let me think about it, and, kind of thing. But no, that's never an issue. Just whenever you need anything, holler. That's what I'm here for. Seriously? Good. Good. Tell me when your birthday is. What day? Okay. Well, I'll be going to the Shabbat service on that night, but I'll have a cigar with you. Absolutely, bud. Oh yeah, we can do that. That you just come see me. We'll sit outside the Weeks house or something with it. So that will do a good job. And I'll pick the cigar for you. Okay.
They don't believe plasticarian. Yeah, the cult of the flying saucer.
In a way.
It's an officially recognized religion in the United States government. So they are allowed to draw beards in the military and wear restrainers and their driver's license.
Seriously?
Yes, it's an officially recognized religion.
Think about that.
Does that matter of genetics that does not tie us?
I've never even heard of it. I can't even argue with it right now, but I think we gotta figure.
There's like the same thing, like the apples aren't far from a tree, but I think that, yeah, you know, some people try to get away from what their parents do, they kind of become their parents.
Yeah.
Definitely doesn't mean.
Oh, okay. And when you are not okay with
A
it?
lot of parents, you know, install, you know, imperfect or negative things into their children, and it's their child's responsibility to improve upon themselves.
But there you go. Okay, so you look at all these, does God, how do you guys deal with the characteristic of God's love across religious platforms? Or ideologies? Yeah. Also, what else did you? So what do you think God would say about different faiths? Or if we look at all of creation, the people that God created it all.
So he created it also.
Yeah, he's created those people.
If he didn't want it, if God didn't want it, he could go like this. And it would be God.
I would say absolutely not.
Yeah,
No, absolutely, you're going to get along
Because if you're trying to find your way with God.
Also making our
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay, here's an interesting piece, right? It's a great question, right? These are great conversations because the thing is, when you talk about the ideology, I would argue chemistry, you ever like go I end up really worried about what's next rather than here. Take care of things here because we're
Examples of that
so
for
I think handle favorite cards. I love pretty sure change and challenge the trend. You're always worried about having your mind wired. Faith is true faith, and then just what's your trying to hit your bet. Does that make sense? So that's now. I think that but I also know that God calls us to be more active agents here.
My mother is an engineering right now. I'm really interested in that space. I honestly don't think engineering would be the best thing for that. I am interested in building things like this. So yeah, I'll probably see on it. I feel like it's a good path.
Here, I'll push that back in.
Other than something like that, I don't know if I should be that good at it, but yeah, I would love to.
So you kind of transcend the God, right?
You know, like the assessment, stuff like that, I would love to.
I think God's in here.
So just that why would you want to go
There is
That's probably,
so you gotta actually.
more about it. pushing ourselves to explore and build these new places, you know, like March as well. People always say like space colonization, I want to say like space civilization. There's a totally different approach to it. And I think that these years on, a lot of those already have people like this class, a lot of these never happen like this. It's because of business life. Just sort of rolling mind, even though it was totally separate from
Reginald Johnson.
uses of it, you know, like we use x-rays and stuff like that.
He's on campus.
Designed with our like, are we really invisible? So a lot of that's why I think it's so interesting.
Which I know this. The new guy, I would sit on that conversation. Either one of us would be the same. Right? Why is that? Because we listen to each other. Or the time we JC, we've had conversations, right?
Not that time, but
Because we learn so much from each other. Too often, people think that because I have a collar, I know, right?
Yeah.
In reality.
Yeah, man, it's good for first. You like recommended me to come here for the longest time I didn't. Both times I've been here, by the way. Yeah,
I was here the last time you, I was here the last time when I saw
remember,
you.
yeah, I remember seeing you the last time I was here, yeah.
And too often, God gets
Oh,
little guy that likes who I like.
Yeah, our kids, radio, communication.
Yeah, go for it. I will do that.
You, and that's the high school just had a
Bing, bing, bing. Ace.
That's what they had last week.
Oh, like you guys say, got me all excited. Got me all
We're
excited.
actually producing our.
Are you gonna be able to make it next Thursday?
I just got through college.
Oh, yeah, what is it? Oh, no,
really? So 8 works out okay for you?
What's also cooler is that this is gas directed.
To the synagogue? Or you to the
Post.
at the Islamic Center, we leave it here because it's 1 o'clock. If you need to get out of class,
And it's
let
on
me know, cause it's a Friday. It's Friday afternoon. We're back by 3:30, you know, so, and then the Shabbat service is we leave here probably about 6:25, 6:20. So we're there by 7.
It was kind of cool being over here on spring break.
Rabbi Monday is gonna meet us and she'll go through the service a little bit with us and everything. So I would think we'll be back by 9:15, so for supper ice cream. And it's Ramadan right now, so
How are you?
And actually, I'm talking about, I gotta try and figure out how to do it respectfully. I wanna do a break fast with our Islamic students, so we have a meal together with them as they break fast in the evening. So, but I've gotta figure out how to do it respectfully, and I don't want, you know, that's something I don't.
How do you spend time?
Right, you try to do it respectfully, yeah. So, all right, how we doing, guys? That was a great conversation, a little longer than I thought. I got talking to you guys. All right, so as we go through the prayers of the people, Michael, you're gonna do that with us? Do you wanna stay there and just read it from there, Michael, or if you can come up here?
I can stay here.
Okay.
Please join me for the prayers, for the people of God. Most loving God, we come this evening knowing that we are called to live in a way that embraces your ethic over all the worldly demands. We ask that you have us walk with compassion for one another. Teach us to embody grace for one another so that your divine light shines deeply into the world. Grant us the strength to see past materialism and consumerism that dictates that some are worthy and others are less than. Help us contradict this teaching through intentionally seeing all and recognizing the worth of all your children. Open our eyes to see that your vision is one that eliminates the hungry, thirsty, the prisoner, and the classes that divide. Teach us to work towards living into that vision so as to help bring forth your kingdom here on earth. All of this we ask in those words that you have taught us to pray. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, so this scripture today comes to us from John chapter 12, and it's 20 to 33, and Ryan's gonna read that for us today.
Now among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and said to him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Philip went and told Andrew. Then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, there will be my servant also. Whoever serves me, the Father will honor. Now my soul is troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it is for this reason that I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name." Then a voice came from heaven, "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." The crowd standing there heard it, and said that it was thunder. Others said, "An angel has spoken to him." Jesus answered, "This voice has come for your sake, not for mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." He said this to indicate the kind of death he was to die.
Okay, so before we move into the message session, I've gotten into this habit now the last 3 weeks or so of showing videos of people who I feel like live out and embody that image of Christ that we're called to embody. And today, talking about God's economy versus human economy, I thought of the person that came to my mind was John Lewis, who is and was a civil rights icon. He was also a 17-term congressman, and he fought the good fight for all of God's creation. So we got a short video to watch on him. Seriously?
Yeah, it might be now, but.
No, it's on. Okay, it was a good idea to start. But, how do you do that?
It might not have it in the settings.
Settings?
Yeah, this would be, maybe not.
Where is it on?
Well,
Is the speaker on the actual projector?
I don't know. I've never had any problem with sound. They're not.
John Lewis is in the with Martin.
Yeah. This is why you practice the video beforehand.
I miss John Lewis because he was a good man, good congressman.
All right, guys. That video talks about. Look up YouTube John Lewis, okay? That'll-
Get in big trouble.
Yeah. Here's the thing, if you didn't know already, that I'm not a great tech guy. I'm trying. But here's the thing, that Lewis, the thing I wanted you to hear was, Lewis had this statement, and it's one of the neatest statements I think I've ever heard. He said, "We are called to get in trouble, in good trouble, to make a difference. And there is such thing as good trouble." And when I think of God's economy, and I think of human economy, you know, economy is a word we hear a lot, right? When you guys hear that word, what comes to mind? Money, right? And why is that? Why is it that money comes first and foremost?
Money puts food on the table and we're hungry.
It does, right?
It's also what we're surrounded by.
Yep. Money is a priority in our country, right? In our culture. And so this is kind of where we're at. We have to wrestle with this. John Lewis crossed the Selma Bridge with King. And he did so and he got beat to near death. Now, in our society, oftentimes, and I've heard this from people, that they were considered troublemakers because they were trying to rock the boat. Well, I'm here to tell you that God's economy is all about rocking the boat. You gotta rock the boat of hate and turn it into love and grace. You gotta rock the boat of division and build bridges. You gotta rock the boat of defining faith as having all the answers, to understanding that we don't really have a clue in the grand scheme of things. I have 3 degrees, 2 of them are in theological thought, right? You know what I've learned in with those 2 degrees? What I don't know. I know how to ask better questions. That's not the way human economy works, right? We're supposed to work up the rungs of the ladder, right? So I've broken out a few thoughts that I think of as far as like subjects, that how we can define it. So principles and values. When we look at God's economy, it's associated with spiritual principles, love, compassion, justice, generosity. It operates on a premise of abundance, where there's always enough for everyone if resources distributed equitably. Whereas the human economy is primarily driven by principles of supply, demand, efficiency, profit maximization, competition. Ethical considerations may be present, but they will take a back seat to the pursuit of economic growth and wealth accumulation. Do you think that's an honest assessment of human economy? So why is that, you guys? Why is there a difference between the two?
Yeah.
A little bit, right? So how do we move this into this? Or do you guys think we should move this into this? What do you guys think?
Moving God's economy
To the human?
yeah.
And tell me more.
Well, I just think that it'd be more ethical in a way, like make people act more ethically when it comes to business and stuff, and how they treat their employees and people in general.
Because they're always focused on, just like how Dollar General in a way. Do you think that the reason why their prices are low is because they're trying to provide a good service, but actually it's because they just spend so much little money on workers? Because they'll have a max of like 2 working for a whole store.
And they won't pay over minimum wage.
No.
Michael?
Yeah, I think the word that I'm just kind of focusing on is just like profit maximization. As a result, the consequence of just primarily focusing on profit maximization is also just like a lot of suffering when it comes to like the employee side. There's over-exploitation, and profit-driven causes a lot of stress as well, and a lot of people to be overworked and kind of like fighting and competing with each other and trying to be having a competitive advantage over one another when they kind of lose track on empathy and having the ability to actually listen to what's going on around them and listen to what's going on within the lives, and that knowing that those employees are also people as well, and that they deserve their rights as well to be able to be seen and heard.
Now, all of you gave great answers there, and each of them had a thread to it, and Michael, you said a magic word in there, empathy. When you look at profit maximization, corporations are not empathetic to their employees. You understand what that means, guys?
Putting themselves in someone else's shoes.
Absolutely. But in God's economy, empathy is, how high is empathy in God's economy on the priority, right? I would argue that it's the best and the most valued characteristic. Because in empathy, we were talking here a little bit, right, of grace, right? Grace is empathetic. Compassion. You gotta have empathy if you're going to be compassionate. All of those things, right? So we're gonna slowly move God's economy into the human economy. Now, is this gonna be well received all the time?
No.
It's not, right? Because why?
Human greed.
Boom. Big piece of the puzzle, right? And Lorna, explain
Yeah,
that.
I'm like, God's down, and this sounds weird, but God's at the bottom here, and the rest, the people who are into what's listed at the bottom there, they're up at the top. Everything's about the people at the top, whereas God is for everyone across the board.
And they don't like that.
So, and it's hard for you to get ahead in this world when you're thinking as much of the other as you are of yourself.
And in that scripture we listened to, what verse, did you guys hear a verse that spoke to you about God's economy more than the others? Do you guys remember hearing what you have to do in order to save your life?
Lose the life you love.
In order to truly save it, right? Thomas Merton uses the words, lose the false self. And the false self is this, right? You guys are, all this stuff you guys are talking about is absolutely dead on. You're talking about letting go of that false self. Because here's the thing, and you guys hear this a lot from me, right? Is that my generation is almost done with the whole voices, right? I'm getting old, I turned 50 this year, right? You guys are the voice. This is why I love to do worship this way, right? Because you guys' voice and understanding of God is so important. This is serious stuff because I think you can change the world. Because you can move the economies if you live into it. Next one. Okay, so let's look at ownership and stewardship. In God's creation, the concept of stewardship is emphasized where individuals are seen as custodians rather than owners of resources. The focus is responsible management and equitable distribution of the resources for the common good. Versus the human economy centers around private ownership, individual rights, capital, land. Resources typically owned by individuals or corporations who are entitled to use them for their personal gain, the boundaries of legal frameworks. Now, just a couple years ago, probably more than a couple now, you guys can remind me, the Supreme Court had a ruling. And you know what the ruling was? That corporations were people. Corporations had rights. What does that say about this? That a corporation, what?
That we value the individual people that make up the companies less than the companies themselves.
Yep, very good, Brandon. Now, what do you think God would say to that? Or how would God feel about that?
Not very cool.
There you go. I think God's up there saying, hey man, knock it off. You know. But that's the thing we have to get to. We have to understand God in that way because God loves each and every one of you equitably. Like Lorna said, the Franciscans have this amazing understanding and they call it a bottom-up God. A bottom-up God means that God loves at the bottom just as much as the top. In fact, God starts at the bottom and comes up. That's an important concept to flow into, but guess what? We don't care for it too much because we live in a society and a culture that says, hey, whoever has the most toys wins. I mean, we have people that can argue that if it fits my ideology, that's God. Instead of recognizing that letting God create our own understanding of things. So that's ownership and stewardship. I'm telling you guys, I didn't know I was going to get this wound up here on this one, so and you guys are fantastic. Goals and ends. You guys have heard the ends justify the means, right? You guys have heard that statement before? So, God's economy seeks to foster a holistic well-being, spiritual fulfillment for all beings. We were talking about this a little bit, right? With all beings. The ultimate goal may be seen as a realization of justice, harmony, and flourishing for all creation. Whereas the human economy focused on material wealth accumulation, economic growth, technology advancement, the primary aim is to increase standards of living, but create employment opportunities and enhance overall prosperity within certain societies. Have you guys ever heard of the Jim Crow laws?
Yeah.
Right? What were they?
Racist, is that?
that they were, right? What were they doing? The Jim Crow laws were, go ahead.
They didn't allow black people in the places that white people were.
Mm-hmm.
And segregation.
Yep. Yeah, segregation, right? They benefited a certain society, right? A certain people got the benefit of the doubt. That's human economy. Because God's economy was seen in '63 at the Lincoln Memorial when a man stood up and said, I have a dream. That was God's economy. That's what we have to move. And King was working diligently to get that economy to move here. You know what is interesting to me, and I don't know how this will play, but you know when King was assassinated, you know what his major piece of the puzzle, what he was working on at that time? It was called the Poor Man's March. you guys heard of the Poor Man's March, right? Have you ever seen the picture of the Memphis boycotts? It says, "I am a man," the sign. He was messing with people's money because he was saying every laborer deserved an honest wage. Because King saw justice and harmony for all, and he lived in a God's economy. We too often are more worried about the individual assets or toys that we have than truly being transformed.
And all the rich white people didn't like that going on.
No, they did not. We've all heard it, right? We've all heard these stories. Read Across the Bridge by John Lewis. It's one of the great memoirs of this. Howard Thurman's Jesus and the Disinherited, guys. Those guys got it. They got it. That God's economy was something more powerful, better than the human economy. But we can't do it if we continue to divide ourselves, if we continue to let go of ourselves and trust in ideologies that keep oppressing others. God's economy doesn't oppress anyone. All right, the distribution of resources. Have you guys, our Archbishop Helmer said one time, and I love this quote, and he said, "When I feed the poor individually, they call me a hero. But if I ask, why are they poor? They call me a communist." He's not, but he's asking for the bottom-up theology. So this is God's economy advocates for a more egalitarian distribution of resources, where everyone's basic needs are met and there is a sense of solidarity sharing among individuals. Human economy can lead to unequal distribution of resources. Have we ever seen that in this country?
It's greater than ever before, actually.
Yep. The divide is getting huge, isn't it? That with disparities in income, wealth, access to essential services, such as healthcare, education. When we were talking about universal healthcare, how was it treated? Horribly, right? What?
It was disparate.
It was disparaged all the time, right? What did you often hear? Or were you guys old enough to know that?
They were talking about like, oh, well, then, that's a lot of tax money out of your pockets, instead of just being, because they didn't want to lose, because a lot of the times the politicians have donors that are very rich individuals, and they don't want to lose their money.
Basically telling us what you're asking for is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to think of all of you are deserving of the basic healthcare needs of humanity. It's ridiculous. Think about that. And there's people, and here's my bone to pick. There's people that I heard tell me that was the Christian way. To make everybody pay their way the way that they thought. The problem is, do you guys know that it is much harder to be poor in this country? Because the poor on average work about 12 hours more a week. On average, guys, which means there's a ton more than wealthy people. And yet, what do you always hear about people on welfare?
Lazy.
They're lazy, right? Why is that? Because of this. They want to emphasize the unequal, oh, I gotta work hard. Let me tell you guys.
It's a narrative pushed by them, so
Yep.
that way they can keep you down while they keep profiting so much off your backs.
Yep. So is that human or God?
That's human.
Yep, absolutely, right? I'll be the first to tell you guys, I work a whole lot less hard physically now than I've ever had in my life. When I was poor and had 3 babies, I was working my tail off all the time, right? This is the important piece of the puzzle to understand. Never lump people into categories. That's, if you don't get anything else, that's God's economy. We can't stereotype. We can't say all Republicans are this, or all Democrats are this, or all Baptists are this, or all Christian churches this, whatever. Because we're good at that, right, as a society? Because God's economy
says, you're a creation of God's, and you are worthy. And that's the challenge for us, to live into God's economy. We can do it. You guys can inspire other people to do it. Share your love and your passion for what God is calling you to be, and be who God calls you to be, because you're all amazing gifts. Don't ever let anybody label you or stick you into a tribe. Because when we tribalize, that benefits only the ones who are pushing fear. I always tell my congregation, or I always told my congregation, you have to look who benefits from fear tactics, from this kind of ugliness, and ask yourself why. Because when you divide, it's much easier to conquer. So God's economy puts bridges where there's division, and teaches us to see all as God's creation. The last one is going to be temporal or eternal perspectives. God's economy considers not only the immediate temporal concerns, but also the eternal consequences. Values such as righteousness, humility, service are seen more significant than transient material gains. Human economy, we talked about it a little bit earlier, right? All the biggest, most toys wins. That's essentially what it comes down to. So, Leonardo, we were talking about this exact thing in this group, weren't we? With the heaven concept, right? And I said to the guys, my problem with the heaven talk is we can center ourselves on heaven and miss the now. When we say the Lord's Prayer, we say on earth as it is in heaven, right? Which means we have to work here on this earth to bring forth God's economy. We have to do the work that's necessary to inspire each other, to live up to what God calls us to live up to. And we can only do that when we lean on each other, when we listen to each other, when we grow with each other. That is what God calls us to do. So the challenge for us is to truly begin the move from God's economy to human economy. And as we do it, as we grow, some of the things that we're going to work on is, why are we doing a pie, the pastor? So we can help the recharge center, so we can reach out. There's going to be other things that we're going to do next year. We're going to do some more things. And we've got to get focused on this, showing the world that we care for them, not because of who they are, but because who God calls them. So bottom up theology. Any questions on that one, guys? Any dialogue right now? We've had some heavy stuff tonight. Any questions? Any last thoughts on it?
My brain hurts.
Aiden, I didn't try to make your brain hurt.
No, it's a good thing. That means that's called mental disequilibrium. That's actually the main sign that you've learned something new. And so your brain is making new neural pathways, which is why it's like the sensation of your brain hurting. Your brain is making new neural pathways and connections.
Well, I'm going to try to make new neural pathways with you any chance I get. So, and you'll do it with me. That's a good thing. Leonardo?
There is a piece that was in the human economy that I did also correlates within the God's economy.
Sure. On this slide?
No, it was a previous slide that mentioned competition. In my viewpoint, God's economy, you compete against yourself to be better, to represent God's image. Along with others, along with yourself, to be at peace with yourself, and to be at peace with others. Competition isn't just a negative outcome just for self-gain.
But you have to emphasize it, right? Because too often competition becomes, I want to win more than I want to do it the right way, right? But you're dead on, bud.
That means like,
Yep.
This person can lose, I'll win.
Yep.
No.
Competition with compassion. How's that?
It's like the Cars movie.
It is, right? That you say more?
Yeah, because Lightning McQueen gave up himself winning to make sure that the king could actually finish his last race.
That now, I want you all to hunt for a scripture text that says about that exact thing, and
bring it back, you got 2 weeks, because, oh, no, you don't, you gotta wait. And I'll put the text up there, but there's a text that speaks exactly to that lesson. And you can find it, Fatima will get a prize for it, right? Just remind me to tell them, we'll get maybe a Dame drink certificate if you find it, okay? Great, Aiden. I wasn't planning on that, see, Aiden, you're pushing me to be better.
Oh, well, I've always been told that I need to go into a pulpit by my other pastors.
You got a good head on you. Okay, guys, so, as we close up today, Nyla's gonna close us in prayer. And I wanna say thank you guys, because we hit it pretty heavy today, so.
Let us be able and willing to walk the path that God lays before us, even and especially when it contradicts the world. Amen.
All right, guys, go in peace, and next week, like I said, we'll do a passion service, which will be kind of a collection of the stuff, so we'll have multiple readings. If you're willing to read for me, please email me and let me know, because we're gonna have a few more readings next week, that we'll have to do, because we'll kind of go fast forward through Holy Week. I usually don't like to do it, but you guys leave before, so I want to do that. Any final questions, guys?
Sir.
What?
No, sir.
Okay, there you go. Have a wonderful week, guys. I'll see you next week. I'll be in Atlanta this week, so say a prayer that I get there safe.
Oh, don't worry, planes are much safer than cars.
That's true.